The order of 9 angles, the O9A or ONA. Am I an insight role? Now, this is an accusation that has, ever since I started covering the O9A, been made towards me constantly, and for understandable reasons, especially since I recently worked with an O9A collective to expose multiple pedophile networks. Now, once more, I was exposing the direct correlation of Myatt Press, a known FBI-run moneypot and accelerationist publishing company, whom claimed to be O9A, along with an FBI-manufactured Nexion called the Temple of Blood. And to be clear, when I say the TOB was manufactured, I literally mean it was created by known FBI assets to bring in misguided people and then to use for the purposes of entrapment. All culminating with the arrest of Ethan Mauser. To quote an American Department of Justice publication, quote, former US Army soldier sentenced to 45 years in prison for attempting to murder his fellow service members in deadly ambush, end quote. And this is a case where Myatt Press, run by known FBI informant and probably FBI special agent Joshua Sutter, who with his Temple of Blood manufactured Nexion, literally used entrapment along with the FBI to charge and prosecute Ethan Mauser, sentencing in March of this year to 45 years in prison. Sutter was paid over $78,000 for his work according to public domain American Department of Justice court documents. Without Sutter, there would be no Myatt Press, no Temple of Blood, and thus no Ethan Mauser case. I can say without conspiracy that the FBI are not only involved in the entrapment of Ethan Mauser, they literally are directly responsible for the radicalization and acceleration of this terrorist conspiracy. For Myatt Press books were directly, along with the Temple of Blood, the cause for Mauser to be anything other than a disenfranchised young man who would have, if not for the FBI and Sutter, probably at worst, been a radical neo-Nazi for a couple of years. Now, I bring this up because no matter how many times I state this, people still think the TOB, Sutter, and Myatt are O9A. They are not. They are directly responsible now for the mass abuse of children using works, one written directly by Sutter himself, the terribly written and embarrassing book of accelerationist O9A inspired fiction, Iron Gates, where you can turn to any page of the book and I guarantee a depiction of rape and pedophilia will be present, which is responsible for pedophiles pretending to be O9A using Myatt Press material to justify, normalize, groom, and perform acts of child abuse. The TOBV, a new copycat group, along with 764, which is full of these fake Niner pedophiles. I recommend you watch my video, The Order of 9 Angles, O9A, a child abuse survivor story, where I lay this all out. Now, I bring this up because I have been, from the beginning of my O9A investigation, essentially vehemently against Myatt Press and fake O9A material and Nexions, because giving them any legitimacy does nothing but bring more misguided youth towards the meat grinder that is Myatt. Naturally, as a journalist, this makes me look like I have been sectarian, which in reality is purely damage control. I would rather people be moved towards 1980 publications of NAOS than Martinet, O9A.org, and modern Fenrir O9A pretenders. This latest video has now caused a new wave of allegations towards me, being an insight role once more, which is understandable given that I literally worked with O9A in the child abuse video to expose the terrible situation that is going on. So fresh allegations towards me inspired me to make this video, to tell the truth as best I know and on what insight roles actually are, and if there are any truth to the allegations made towards me. With the complexity of covering O9A, For this video, I will keep it simple. I will only reference O9A material from publications of what I see as some of the most prominent works, that being NAOS, HOSTIA, and David Myatt's Star Game as references, as they are all authentic pre-internet publications, and probably the only O9A material that is authentic to what O9A is before the 2000s republication of O9A material by amoral opportunists like Chloe and later Sutter and the FBI, who took O9A, rebranded it to suit their own purposes. O9A.org, Fenrir Publications, Chloe Publications, Martinet Press, all being inauthentic, making it almost impossible to navigate for both journalists and NINA aspirants themselves to distinguish what is real O9A material and what and how O9A actually operates. I reference these three books, all three pre-internet publications, as a means of showing the authenticity of the information. If people want to know what O9A is, don't go to these modern internet publications. Go to the source. The PDFs of the core text NAOS and HOSTIA, all in the public domain, scanned from authentic pre-internet publications. In NAOS, a practical guide to modern magic, published in 1989 by Thorland West and O9A, it states in the introduction, and I quote, "The present work is clearly written without any mystification." End quote. This is important. The real O9A is very clear, very concise, and most of all, very straight with their communications. Quote, "Geniuses simplify, idiots mystify." A quote from one of my O9A contacts who started telling me this constantly. My only aim as an investigative journalist who focuses on extremism is to clearly and concisely give you the best of my knowledge, the information as it is, without any mystification. I am no representative of the Order of Nine Angles. No one is. The O9A is a decentralized collective of individuals. There are no leaders. Anyone claiming otherwise is either trying to hijack the O9A for their own purposes or are seriously misinformed. So why am I constantly being accused of being an insight role? And what is an insight role? According to pre-internet publications of previously referenced O9A core material. Because of the nature of the O9A and the general knowledge that insight roles are a core O9A praxis, people quickly realize that the O9A essentially take on fake roles in order to infiltrate different organizations and elements of society, including extremist groups. They do this in order to self-initiate by taking on these roles to build character and skills to enable the further manipulation of social, political, economic, and religious systems, to literally socially engineer into various places in society that allows them to inevitably cause real social change. This is all done via socially engineering through insight roles and building upon them. Niners can cause clandestine aeonic change, for in the bigger picture, O9A are trying to use the systems of control against itself. As O9A believes, quite rightfully in my perspective, that Western civilization is in a state of total de-evolution. The fundamental purpose of O9A is to, via insight role infiltration and personal self-actualization, use these positions to move via social engineering to change the degeneration and de-evolution of humanity and Western civilization, and move it into an evolutionary aeonic change. All of this done incrementally via infiltration of the most elite and prestigious positions within the international state system. Anything is possible to a Niner, as possibility is limitless, only life is limited. So, I'm going to give you a layout of how a simple insight role can be used, then built upon in ways beyond what most realize. So, in this hypothetical example, say this person was an Australian Niner. They may start by doing an insight role to infiltrate a political activist group, like, let's say, the Australian Greens Party, a far-left political organisation that does nothing but end up supporting the Australian Labor Party, as they are essentially just shills for Labor. Now, this person joins an activist group associated with the Greens, then uses the skills learnt to move beyond activism and infiltrate local politics. Then they join the Australian Labor Party, a natural move from their activist insight role. This could lead them to becoming influential within the sphere of regional government. Down the line, continuing to build upon its initial simple insight role, they could rise through the ranks of the party. As if you purely operate insincerely, you will easily maneuver yourself cynically into all the right positions, as you have no attachment to this on any level beyond seeing how far you can go. This leads them to being the head of the party in their local electorate. Leading this elected niner would naturally infiltrate an area that votes for the Labor Party in every local and national election. This position leading to places within the Australian Senate and Parliament. Later, building upon this to manoeuvre into positions of governance over entire agencies, then departments, then to the highest positions within the departments that regulate other departments. Now, this hypothetical niner has now managed to become the appointment secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Why you choose this area over, let's say, the Department of Defence, which oversees the ADF, or the Australian Defence Force? Well, Australia has two main intelligence agencies. There are many more, but these two stand out. One is ASIO, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, which is, to put it simply, Australia's version of MI5 or the FBI. It is under the governance of the Department of Home Affairs. The other main intelligence agency is ASIS, the Australian Secret Intelligence Service. This is, to put it simply again, the Australian version of MI6, the CIA or Mossad. ASIS is the most powerful agency in the country, whom is, yes, as you can guess, under the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, whom is now under the agency of the hypothetical niner. ASIS directly handles foreign intelligence operations, clandestine operations, and has secret agency over the most classified operations handled by the Australian Special Operations Command of the Australian Army. This gives access to the use of the Commando 2nd Regiment, the most elite conventional warfare military special forces unit in the country, and the SASR, or the Special Air Service Regiment, which is the most elite Australian unconventional special forces unit in the country. The SASR has been involved in clandestine operations, targeted killings, secret foreign incursions, training guerrilla warfare units in places like Myanmar. So ASIO and or ASIS, if you're watching, everyone knows ASIS uses the SASR for the purposes of training intelligence officers. So don't get pissed off at me over this. There's a notorious example of this being a training accident which the Australian Special Forces and ASIS in Melbourne really messed up. It's called the Sheraton Hotel Incident, which is on the Wikipedia page for ASIS, which shows a direct correlation between the AUSOC Special Forces personnel in the training of ASIS intelligence officers. And I have known enough Afghan, Iraq and East Timor war veterans who were from the 2nd Commando Regiment and the SASR to know damn well ASIS uses them in covert and clandestine operations. It is no secret. So, ASIS, ASIO, if watching, chill out. So, back to this hypothetical niner, who started out by joining some standard woke activist group, then shilling for the easiest mainstream political party to position themselves in, whom they do not even support in any way, and are doing so cynically for an insight role. This leads 20 years down the line to this individual essentially having direct influence on the country's secret intelligence service and the ability to influence the utilization of special operations units for targeted killings or sending of spooks and SASR officers for the training of paramilitary groups in foreign countries, among a myriad of other things. This is in essence now one of the most powerful people in Australia who has direct influence over the international state system with governments over ACES. This is O9A. Insight roles, as you can now see, if the 9A wants, can be used for the purposes of infiltrating the most influential, powerful, and prestigious positions within a society. That they are deliberately exploiting via social engineering through incrementally inducing change and using subversion to position and cause the social change they want. Now that was just a hypothetical example of an insight role. Has anyone actually done anything like this who's involved in the O9A? Well, yes. As an example, I will tell you a few of my O9A contacts are professors or faculty in some of the United Kingdom's most prestigious universities. You have essentially people who are extremists in the eyes of the UK, far right by the perspective of modern politics, and involved in the grooming and teaching of the future leaders of the United Kingdom. Yet, they have been undetected for decades. This is not conjecture. I literally know one contact at a very famous university who is also a Holocaust denier and despises Israel, who may be associated with David Myatt himself, has been working undetected in academic circles that are far left. If you are watching, I do not care about your personal politics. I brought it up for it makes an interesting point. As I said, this is not conjecture. But I cannot tell and never will reveal the identity of any of these people. Antifa, good luck working this one out. You never will. Now this is real O9A. This is insight roles. The O9A is not dangerous because of stupid acts of terrorism by manufactured accelerationist material by the likes of Martinet Press. The real O9A are dangerous because they can infiltrate the highest position within the social structure of society and use that to induce the incremental change for their eonic perspective. This is hardcore, this is real social change, and this is real power. This may sound like paranoid fiction, that I am saying that Satanists have a global network in the highest position of Western society. No, I'm only stating that O9A is a system that is meant to do this, and that, given how elite the expectation of a 9A is, very few actually achieve these positions. I am making a point that this is what the insight role is. It's simple, it's a process of building on something small and working hard to build up, step by step, increment by increment, as put forth in my hypothetical 9A situation. Now back to me. Am I an insight role? The first allegation of this was strangely from a British journalist, Jake Hanrahan, who accused me of being an O9A propagandist posing as a journalist. Jake Hanrahan and I have publicly reconciled since then, and I hope it is still in good... I hope it's still... at the time of making this video that we're good. But in personal communications, he does, for good reasons, still believe that I am either an Order of Nine Angles insight role or a naive idiot who has inadvertently become an O9A propagandist via manipulation from the O9A. Now, to put this simply, if I have been manipulated out of naivety, I would never have been able to get the contacts I have, as they would, in their aristocratic fashion, not be associated with someone seen so pathetically by an O9A perspective. David Myatt does not let anyone interview him. It only happened because I earned it. And it was published because the interview turned out to be good. It is as simple as that. I have conducted my investigation and communication in a way that they, in a small way, trust me as an outsider. People now come to me to break stories and have access that the BBC would kill for. And this is One of my own contact's words, not mine, Jake, so don't get angry at me. People give me access that Jake Hanrahan would kill for because they know that their story will be twisted to suit the establishment propagandist narrative if they talk to Jake Hanrahan. I'm not saying this, contacts are. Now, David Myatt and other contacts came to me purely because they know I will not twist their words. That is it. There is no other reason for my strange rise of success covering O9A and Myatt. I, in all honesty, believe that anyone starting a career, joining a group, becoming involved in academia or the civil service at the beginning are insight roles, as we all have to pretend we know what we're doing to break into any given area. We are all performing insight roles. The difference is I'm not doing this to try and change and rise in the entire social system to subvert and cause aeonic change to help move the social de-evolution of humanity back into evolution. I am just some guy with an interesting past and an undistinguished history as a journalist in the past. I jumped at the opportunity to do what I always wanted and became an investigative journalist. I just happen to be able to build upon the skills of my past to navigate this complex mess of contacts and misinformation, spooks and manipulators, and worse. So, it's up to your interpretation. Have I been an insight role the whole time? Naturally, I will deny that, as I would have set myself up far better if I was doing that from the start. Or I could be an O9A genius told by Anton Long themselves to talk about Christian being possessed by demons in 2021 to start this frankly bizarre operation. Like the constant spook allegations against me, I will let there be some mystery regarding me. I am not an insight role for one simple reason. What I'm doing, it's sincere. It's not manufactured nor socially engineered. I have talked about other issues as an investigative journalist, like on amphetamine use and its production under Captagon in the Middle East to force the Arab League to reinstate Syria and the Assad regime as members. It's just that the O9A is the most extensive investigation I am conducting, and as a known occultist, I have a unique insight for a journalist that helps understanding what ONA is, at least what it is according to original works, along with contacts and other sources of information. Once more, I do not represent the O9A, nor do I have any wish to monopolize information. I am just telling you what O9A, and in this case insight roles, are, taking out NANA language as to demystify the issue to keep things clear. This is my perspective. The insight role goes far beyond what I have said, but I do not have the time to go into it further. Now, I'll be going away in July by flight to an undisclosed location very far away. I'll be in the middle of nowhere. I need a break. I plan to do a live stream hopefully before I go. However, I will not be on social media at all during this period in July. However, I will be back, and I plan on making much more content, not just O9A, but on the occult too, and other journalistic investigations, and possibly some more artistic endeavors. So, I look forward to where this may go when I return. Regards, Interzone.